tax dollars. For the first time in nearly 4 years, the Missouri House does so under new leadership. KRCG 13's Garrett Bergquist recently sat down with new House Speaker Elijah Haahr to find out what you can expect from your state reps in the months ahead in this special report.
Although technically in office since November, Elijah Hahr's colleagues made it official on January 9th. They unanimously voted him the 75th Speaker of the Missouri House of Representatives.
It's an incredible honor to do this.
At 36, the Springfield native is the second youngest presiding officer in the nation. Voters first sent him to Jefferson City in 2012. Haahr and Democratic leaders both say criminal justice reform will play a major role this session.
Representative Cody Smith had a bill last year that had to do with mandatory minimums and trying to get rid of that, particularly for nonviolent offenders. Representative Smith's bill on mandatory minimums is not the end of the discussion, it's the beginning of the discussion.
Ballot issues could be another story. Voters in November approved the so-called Clean Missouri Amendment that addresses ethics rules and legislative districts. It requires a nonpartisan demographer to draw legislative districts so they contain even numbers of Republicans and Democrats. Haahr says lawmakers might change the redistricting language.
There was very little discussion on the redistricting piece, and so a lot of communities in Missouri, rural and urban, are very concerned about losing their voice in the legislature. So I think that's something we want to revisit.
Democrats already say they will fight any effort to subvert the will of the voters. How do you address those redistricting issues without going against the will of the voters?
It's hard to glean the will of the voters when there's so many different subjects. And so I think narrowing the scope of that, taking it back to the voters, they'll get the chance to weigh in and we'll just see where they're at.
Voters in August rejected a so-called right-to-work law by a 2-to-1 margin. Some Republicans already want to try again, but Haahr says it's unlikely to get a floor vote.
The voters were very clear with where they stood, and I don't think we have any intention to revisit that in the session.
Haahr says he agrees with voters' rejection of a fuel tax hike to pay for highway repairs. He says he would rather use money already in the state's coffers. Governor Mike Parson last week asked lawmakers to use $350 million in bond revenue to cover the most essential bridge repairs.
And that's a conversation our caucus is going to have, but we understand that infrastructure is important in the state. Our geographical center, being the center of the middle of the country, I-49, I-44, I-70, it's a big deal for us. And so, that's one option.
Haahr has until May 10th to shepherd the governor's budget through the legislature. The session wraps up on May 17th. Reporting at the state capitol, Garrett Bergquist, KRCG 13.
House speakers traditionally serve for 2 years. You can see more of Garrett's interview with Speaker Elijah Haahr with this article for the story on our website, krcgtv.com.